Okay. Hello, my name is A.W.L. Sylvester. This is part 2 in my description of the thing that you can find in my book, The First Mythology. This time I want to talk more about the astrology. In part 1 I said a lot of things about Genesis. Probably the one thing about Genesis that I didn't say is Genesis is an ongoing, repeated cycle. Every year the same process is repeated. Every year the northern and southern hemisphere is recreated. There are a lot of books out there today where you can read a little bit of Osiris in September, September's Child, or they will compare Osiris a little bit to the Christian religion. What I have found, the process of the stone was developed first, and all of our religions, Osiris, Christianity, came by understanding that process. Astrology also came by understanding that process. In September, Osiris was reborn as a babe. It's known as the first resurrection. He was born a virgin birth under the constellation Virgo, and Isis being connected to the moon. Sometimes they were called the two sisters. What a lot of people didn't know is Osiris is a 16-month process, or a 16-month religion that's repeated every 16 months. There's an overlap. I found that this overlap is the same thing to make the Philosopher's Stone using Genesis. Genesis is repeated. The alchemists say that you must turn the wheel again. How I found this originally many years ago, I worked with a man named Flammel, and very slowly I found astrological symbols and metaphors that covered these 16 months hidden in the alchemical tablets. What I found later as I developed the process, there are word definitions to the astrological constellations, and all of these word definitions tie in with this alchemical process. Now, what you have to realize, you can't name the constellations and then make matter work so that it works with the constellations. You have to develop the process first, and then you know that at a certain time of the year, a certain thing will happen with this process. And so, with what was happening in the below, defined the stars above. It's just like it says in Genesis that those stars would be for times and dates and seasons. They're linked primarily to this process of the Philosopher's Stone, and they are done so through the word definitions and by what happens to this matter in the process. What I want to talk about now, this overlap of Osiris, is also based on the overlap of the stone. It is a 16-month process divided with 9 months to make the Mercury, what is known by Mercury, which is also September's Child, known by the alchemists. However, nobody knew that it was a 9-month process using an egg in a pyramid to make this Mercury, making it naturally. Then there are 7 months afterwards to finish Osiris and to finish the Philosopher's Stone. That 7 months is again divided into 3 and 4. All these things are tied to different ages, like we are now getting into the age of Aquarius. At the 00 AD, it was the age of Pisces. Before that, the age of the Ram. Before that, the age of the Bull. In Gerald Massey's book, they have different constellation things and tied to Osiris that go back perhaps 10,000 BC. My own personal experience with this, it's almost unbelievable, even for myself, but they knew the process of the stars moving in the sky, the procession of the equinoxes, and as Mr. Massey said, they found this by observation. If they found it by observation and they knew it 10,000 BC, I think that it would have taken them 4,000 or 5,000 years to figure out this process in the sky. They would have had to have tracked it until they at least made a quarter of an arc to know that this was going to make a circle repeated every 25,000 years. All of the symbols are tied in, not just one or two. Every constellation is tied into this process. That's something that nobody ever knew. Nobody ever knew this process. But as you read and understand all this material, you know that the process was defined from understanding Genesis. This process in Genesis defined astrology. After Genesis and astrology was defined, they started the religion of Isis and Osiris. It was based on fact and based on this pattern. Everything that happened to Osiris, life, death, resurrection, and the tie-in to all the constellations, first happened to this process in this stone. That's all information unknown today in any library of the world. As the stone is resurrected in April, it was considered a perfect matter. It was resurrected because it went from life to death to this perfection. Osiris lived, died, had a first resurrection in September, the same time as we create mercury in the ovens. Then with 7 more months, he was resurrected as a god. In Egypt, not only astrology, but the things that they did proved this work. They tied what they called a tit and a lion cloth onto the Dijad pillar. That tit and lion cloth have to do with the last 7 months of the process of the stone. The first 3 months, it's a combination of both tit and lion cloth. In December, the tit was removed because the work was then, as I showed you previously, in the upper part of the oven, where the substance unites just with the sun. That substance in the sun is the same as Osiris and the Eye of Horus. We united the substance with the sun to make it perfect. They, in their religion, united Osiris with the sun so that he could become a god. In Alchemy and in Genesis, we have different types of matter that they talked about. Androgynous matter being male and female. That male and female came by work associated with the sun, which they considered male, and by work with the moon, which they considered female. When you work a compost pile outside, you can say that it becomes androgynous material. It is both male and female, and that material you can unite with any seed out there, being a male type seed or a female type plant. I could kick back to Genesis really quick and say why Eve was made from Adam had to do with Adam in the original creation, as understood by the Egyptians, was made of androgynous material, so he was male and female. That's why God could take a rib from him and so make a female from those substances. Also, alchemy has to do with, you'll see the serpent biting its tail. Those symbols are in my book. That had to do with matter recycled. It's found throughout alchemy, but it also was found on the tomb of Osiris. The matter of Osiris lived, died, and was resurrected. That symbol is there until he's resurrected as a babe. That is at the 9th month, the virgin birth. Now the next 7 months has to do with what Osiris had to do here on earth to get to heaven, uniting both male and female again with the sun and moon, and then finally with the sun. Those 7 months are found everywhere throughout alchemy as 7 steps. They are found everywhere in the Egyptian religion as the last 7 months that every soul had to go through to resurrect perfect in heaven. If you did not pass the test, then you couldn't resurrect. There are, in the alchemical process, a division of 3 and 4. All throughout alchemy, I've shown this division in a hidden fashion in the pictorial allegories. They call these the 7, I can't pronounce the words, they're old Egyptian words, Kanumu. 4 of them had a special purpose. Those 4 are tied to the last 4 months when Osiris is tied to the sun, to the last 4 months when the process is tied to the sun. Everything has to do with making the matter perfect, making Osiris perfect, making us perfect so that we could resurrect as a god, as a perfect substance, and therefore spend eternity in heaven with God. This is where our religion came from. This is where the Philosopher's Stone came from. This is the explanation of the pyramid and what it was designed for. And it's all things that are truth as you will know it by what's in this book.